everybody, and welcome to the Everyday Jefa Podcast. I am your host, Bessy Martinez, and I'm really excited that you are here today, listening from wherever you are or watching us, because remember, we are on YouTube as well. Like I said, I'm your host, Bessy Martinez, and this platform is for the everyday Latina woman out there looking for inspiration through the stories of the interviewees that we bring on as our guests. They're just out there making Jefa moves. And I'm really excited because, of course, we are now stepping into season 3 of the Everyday Jefa podcast. And so it's amazing the opportunities that I have had coming up to today. We are now in 2024. It's crazy. And that I have had the opportunity to meet so many amazing Latina women out there doing the thing, out there doing the Jefa moves. And for those of you that don't know what Jefa means boss babe, whatever you want to call it. She's out there making just, big decisions for her life, whether in corporate America, as an entrepreneur, as a stay-at-home mom. These are women out there just, doing the thing, making changes both personally and professionally in their lives. And so I'm excited because I get to bring them on board as my guest, and we get to just chill and hang out and chat. We always hope that when we share these conversations with you, that you feel like you're sitting right here with us. And so today we have a special guest, and I'll kind of let her explain herself as she introduces herself. But without further ado, ma'am, please, coming all the way from San Antonio, right?
San Antonio, yes.
Okay, girl, tell us who are you and what do you do? And welcome to the Everyday Jefa Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Bessy. I appreciate it. My name is Tori Escamilla. I kind of do a little bit of everything. I'm a vet, but I'm not a vet. I did 10 years active duty, and the past 4 have been, it's going to be 5 this year actually, have been reserves. So I've been in the United States Navy for 15 years. My full-time job, I'm a civilian for the Department of the Navy at one of our bases here in San Antonio. I am on my 5th season with my own podcast, Chicanachisme, that I talk about specifically Mexican Americans, our history, our stories, things that we normally don't talk as a community, which we know anybody that's Latino, there's a lot of hush-hush topics that we don't talk about. And I got into public speaking last year, and this year I decided to, of all the millions of things I have going on, to start a apparel printing and embroidery shop. One of my really good friends. So last year I finally quit just because my grandfather passed away and I needed a break. But I'd been a radio personality on the Tejano radio station here in San Antonio. And one of my really good friends did everybody's merchandise, like the hats, the jackets, the, t-shirts, all that good stuff. Well, he got a job with Universal Music Group in Tennessee and said, hey, I don't want to take anything. I'm literally selling like my bed, my drawers, everything. He was like, the same people I do, take all my merchandise equipment. So I was like, okay, sure. This was 2 years ago and I'd been putting it off. And so I was like, I have this huge machine. I have all this equipment in my garage. I'm going to finally use it. So last week I finally announced the business. I've been practicing on stuff and little things for people and friends here and there just so I could practice. So I finally announced that. So yeah, on top of all of that. And then tomorrow I start grad school for my clinical mental health program.
Wow, girl, you're doing it and everything. So like I said, I love to bring jefitas on board here, not to just, tell us what they're up to and stuff like that, but really to see that we are literally everyday Latina women out there making Jefa moves. And Jefa moves are just big, bold decisions that we're making for ourselves. Like I said, whether it's professionally or personally, they somehow, some way intertwine. And so you're just out there doing the thing, girl. Like I probably knew a quarter of what you were just telling me right now. But yeah, I mean, it's just so exciting, because sometimes there's things that I am completely oblivious as to what's going on. So I get to learn along the journey that you all are going through, and to be able to sit down and kind of catch up, and have like you have on your podcast, which is another thing I love, because if you all have met me in person or have heard this podcast for a while, you know that I'm all about collaboration. And it doesn't matter if we're from the same industries, we have different audiences, and I just want to learn about you, and I want to be able to support you however I can. And so one of the first things that I thought is, like, I haven't had a podcaster on here really technically, to share what they're doing. And then you and I connected, what, social media?
No, I met you at Spoiled Latina.
Oh, 2 years ago. Yeah, I guess
think
it's
it was
2 years
past
ago.
year. Yeah.
Like 2 years ago. And for those of you that don't know what Spoiled Latina is, it's well, now it's Spoiled Latina Summit. It's a weekend or 2 day long conference based out of Houston. Another Jefa herself, Yvonne Guidry, she's Spoiled Latina on social media. She hosts this event, and so yeah, it was the one that was at the hotel. I don't remember the name of the hotel.
Yes.
But that one, yeah. That one, man, time bicycle goes by real fast.
It really does.
Fast. And so yeah, it was just, I hadn't even really started my podcast as well. I wasn't even thinking of tapping into that area, but just being able to see other women doing the thing, to me, it gets me excited, because it means if they can do it, I can do it too, is the
For
way I
sure.
always do it. And being able to just collaborate ideas and share just our energy and our visions and our missions with each other. There's just something beautiful, especially when it comes to Latina women, that when we come together, we're a force to be reckoned with. I mean, let alone by ourselves, but when we come together, it just makes even much more bigger impact. And so
Right.
congratulations, for you kicking off this year, starting off, this thing that I'm pretty sure you were passionate about for school. So kind of give us a little bit. First of all, I'm going to kind of break it down.
Yeah.
Since I know you mentioned a couple of things that you've been up to and what you've been doing for a while. So we're going to kind of start with the thing that you've been doing in a minute for a while now. Military service. So my husband is a veteran. He got out in 2000. And so he's, the Marine branch. I wish I could tell you more, but I don't know anything battalion numbers. My brain limits itself to, he went from this year to this year. This is what branch service he was in.
Right.
So you said you've been in reserve now for a couple years?
The past 5.
And you served for how many?
So I did 10 active duty, and then the past 5 have been reserve, so 15 total.
Okay, and that's what brought you to San Antonio. Where were you before San Antonio?
Chicago.
Oh, yeah. That's why you're probably okay with this weather.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny. Everybody's freaking out. And I was like, I've literally driven in the snow. You guys, I don't know. I don't understand what everybody's freaking. My mom's like, are you okay? Don't drive. I'm like, I literally used to drive in snow all the time. Like, I'm fine.
Yeah, and so if you're watching this, obviously we always record these ahead of time so that we can make sure that we get these to you all, perfect as possible. But right now we've hit the first cold front of the year of 2024 in the state of Texas and Central Texas, because that's where I'm based at. I'm based out of Austin. Yeah, everybody, HEB was wiped out as of 2 days ago. I lived in DC for 12 years. I mean, I don't mind the cold. I just cannot stand the wind. Which is why I probably never moved to Chicago, because the wind is brutal there.
Yeah.
My face would be all kinds of chapped. But no, that's awesome. See, those are the types of things that I'm talking about. Like, we only met 2 years ago, but there's a lot more storyline, a lot more history behind you. So what made you decide to go into service?
I had always actually wanted to join the Army. One of my grandma's brother, my great uncle, was Special Forces. He was a Green Beret. He was actually a tunnel rat in Vietnam, and he retired Special Forces. And I just thought he was like the Mexican G.I. Joe. I thought he was the coolest person ever. And I just always wanted to be in the military. And I graduated in 2005. For those of us who don't remember 2005, that was peak, Afghanistan and Iraq. And I mean, every day you were just hearing about constant, bombs going off, all these people passing away, dying. And my mom was like, "No, loca, I am not going to let you join the Army, girl. Like, I don't think so." And at the time I was still 17, so I wasn't able to, she had to sign for me. And she like told the recruiter off, was like, don't call her anymore. She's not going, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay. And I wasn't very smart in school, so I wasn't really wanting to go to college. And so after that, she's like, just try community college. So I'm like, okay, fine. I tried it. It wasn't really my thing. I was kind of lost. I didn't really know what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go. And one of my friends was stationed here in San Antonio Air Force, because our basic training for the Air Force is here. And I was like, oh, cool. Maybe I could join the Air Force and then, stay in San Antonio. Well, oddly enough, I was so nervous, I didn't really pay attention. And where the recruiting stations are, literally each branch is in the same little strip. It's just like one door after the next. So I'm so nervous. So I walk in, there's a recruiter coming out, and he's like, did you need help? And I was like, yeah, actually, I just have a couple questions. And I was like, are you guys closing? Because it's kind of nighttime. And he's like, no, like come on, I'll talk to you. So I'm like, okay. So we sit down, and he starts talking to me, and I start looking around, and I'm seeing ships and water. And I was like, oh my God, I walked into the wrong recruiting office. I walked into the freaking Navy office. So I'm letting him talk, doing a spiel, because I'm just not the kind of person to be like, oh, wrong place, bye. So I let him talk. And he's like this cholo Southsider, Mexican, and then I was freshly 21. So, I was all about partying at that time, and, made it sound great. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I still have some questions for the Air Force, whatever. But long story short, I just kind of decided I would go with it, because the good thing about the Navy is anywhere you go has to be somewhere where there's water. So they're not going to send me to like random Idaho or something. I'm going to be anywhere that's by water, by a beach. And so I was like, easy day, I can do that. And here I am 15 years later.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's
Yeah.
crazy that, yeah, even back then you're like, you know what, I just know that this thing is not for me. Like,
Yeah.
I'm an avid, the same thing. I started college, and then just for whatever reason, life just changed for me. And it didn't break my heart either that I didn't finish college. Tried going back and was like, maybe this is just not the thing for me.
Right.
Kudos to everybody that has gone, because now, fast forward, now you're entering a new stage and a new season in your life where you are walking into the whole college experience and education and stuff like that. So, sometimes everything happens for a reason, one, and two, it's everything. I've always believed that everything's based on a divine timing.
Mhm.
And so the fact that your mom basically stonewalled the recruiter from the get-go to try to get you to do this traditional thing that, of course, for a lot of us, not just, I think, culturally speaking, as Latinos and Latinas, where the tradition is high school, college, job, marriage, kids, so on and so forth, that
Right.
a lot of us are still trying to change that narrative. And I think it has a lot to do also perhaps what got you into, because, I guess my question would be is, at what point did you transition into going, okay, I'm part of the service, and now I want to start doing this other additional thing? Because at this point you're already in San Antonio, right?
Uh, when I started the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
yes. So actually, one of my really good friends in Chicago, I was telling him like, dude, I'm so tired of hearing the same like 5 songs on the radio. And he's like, you should listen to podcasts. And I was like, what's a podcast? And he's like, oh, I think you'd really like it. It's like really educational. There's different genres. So he like started getting me on a couple of podcasts. And so I was like, oh, okay, like yeah, I kind of like this. And of course, this first thing I went for was like the different Latino podcasts, and everything that I heard was like California, Florida, New York. And so which I was cool with, I wasn't really, didn't really think of it. And then when I came back to Texas, I was like, you know what, there's actually not a lot of Tejano, or like Texan podcasts. And I was like, I'm going to start one. And so I had a podcast. It was actually called the Hana Talk with me and two of my other girlfriends. And they're both moms. One of them runs a business. And it just got to the point where our schedules were conflicting. I ended up kind of like doing most of the work just because I was like the single girl, with no kids. So it was just easier for me. And I knew it was a lot for them. But after a while, I was just like, you know what, guys, I think I'm just going to kind of do this by myself. They had different ideas from what I had. And since I was, kind of doing a little bit more of the footwork, I figured let me just kind of do this by myself. And so one of my minors in my degree is actually Mexican American Studies. And I just thought it was really cool. I didn't lived everywhere. I was stationed in Boston. I was stationed in California. I was in Chicago. And then I came back to Texas. How even as Mexican Americans, we have such a similar core in regards to like, our music, our food, our tradition, our religion, but we're still such different people depending on our location. And so
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really cool. And I noticed, me being my history buff self, was that a lot of our gente didn't know their history. They didn't know, that LA was made pretty much on the back of Hispanics. And, a lot of people didn't know a lot of the struggles and the civil rights things that we went to. And so I was like, you know what, this is going to be my goal. I don't want to be a teacher. Teaching is not really my thing, but I wanted to find a way to get it out to the masses. And so that's where Chicanachisme came into play.
And what you season 8 now, right? You
5.
said 5. Sorry, I
Yeah.
don't know where I got the 8 from. Thinking like the numbers. And so how has it been for you for the last 5 years? Like what kind of people have you had on your podcast?
It array of things actually. I was really proud of my first season. I think once I got to the second season, I kind of just wanted to like talk to everybody. But my first season is I have a friend who transitioned from female to male while in the Navy, who was from
Wow.
San Antonio, Hispanic. So that was like a whole like different kind of complex on its own. So those are the kind of stories I wanted to do because we don't talk about the
Yeah.
trans community. One of my
Yeah.
really good friends, actually the one who gave me his merchandise equipment, is gay and he does regional Mexicano. He's a singer. Especially being in that genre as a gay in the gay community is its own story. So that's what I was really trying to do is get people who are in the community that are doing things that are putting themselves out there that are in these different intersectionalities that we just do not talk about. And I've had the most awesome guests, just like you said, people that you're meeting that you didn't even know they did the things they did, that they were involved in the things that they were involved in, their life story. After talking to people, you're like, okay, I see why you're like that, or why your personality is like this or that, or why you're interested in these certain things. It's been really cool. I've been really honored, and luckily, like I said, I was a Tejano personality, so I was able to get some of like the Tejano stars, and network with a bunch of people who introduced me to other people. I had somebody from the LA Times reach out to me from last year who I did an interview with. So it's been really, really cool.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, because you just never know. I mean, we live such in the digital era now, and I don't think media, especially digital media, is going to go anywhere. I think it's
Yeah.
going to just keep expanding from where we currently have been the last 3 years. I mean, I think the pandemic opened up Pandora's box both in a good way and not so good way. But it really, I think, allowed a lot of creatives like yourself to kind of have that opportunity to kind of step into the unknown, because we were all going through the unknown and the storytelling. And I think that's what a lot of us in media have really started to lean in, is the storytelling, because like you said, like the portrayals that we keep seeing time and time again are never 100% accurate. Two, it's never our story. Somebody's telling our stories for us.
Mhm.
And now being able to have the opportunity to have those people tell their stories from their own lips, I think is something that is phenomenal, because there are still people that are still not able to share their stories, their version. Everybody else is telling their version.
Right.
And so that's cool that you've been doing this already for quite some time. And that you've just kind of took it upon yourself to say, you know what, this is what I want to do. These are the types of stories that I want to do. And these are the connections that I'm starting to make, because um, connections are made not just in person. I mean, we miss the whole in real life, situations, but
Right.
I think we're still kind of we're still kind of in the, let's see which way we swing, in person or digital.
Mhm.
But I think as long as you got a camera, you got a microphone, you can really tap into anything and anybody, regardless where they are. And the odds of somebody saying, yeah, I want to be on your podcast or whatever, are actually very high. People don't realize that all you have to do is just reach out and be like, hey, this is what I do. Would you be interested? They'll more than likely see it.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy because they're like, yeah, let's do it.
Really.
I don't know
Yeah.
if you've ever found it that way.
Yeah, no,
Um,
it genuinely is. Or I'm genuinely surprised when somebody's like, "Hey, I want to do your podcast," and I'm like, "Really?" Like, okay, let's do it.
yeah. Or some, I think one person told me, hey, I started my podcast because I heard yours. I'm like, oh, you're listening to mine? Like, as if that's not the whole, I mean, that's the whole reason why we do podcasts, is so people can listen. But we just don't think of it because for us, it's just something we just love to do and we want to do, not
Exactly.
thinking anything about it. And so now you've transitioned from, currently still doing that, and then you took on another Jefa hat, which is the embroidery
Mhm.
and all that good stuff. So where are you with that?
So like I said, right now, I just was doing a bunch of little things for like friends and family. I still have really close ties to the radio station, and they actually have other stations throughout all of South Texas. So I did like their logos for their shirts for their broadcasting company. I have a couple friends that have their own businesses that were like, "Here's my logo," like use it to like start practicing, or and so that way you have it on file, so when we need more stuff you can order. I've done I have a printer that does like direct to film printing on shirts. I actually just made one for Natasha Norteño 210 using her branding. So like I said, I just finally told the world, I guess you could say, that I was doing it on Monday, and surprisingly got a lot of people like, what can you do? Can you do this? Can you do that? And da 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 da. Da. And there's still a lot of things that I'm still learning, just because, like I said, it's not something that I'd really been tackling too much. But I'm like, hey, if you guys are willing to let me learn, via using your branding and stuff, I'm all about it.
Yeah, no, and there's a huge support. There's, again, it's like, I think I would say that for every industry, um, it's all about perspective, on how not just how good you can get, but just how much feedback and response or people purchasing and wanting to, support there is,
Mhm.
because I think we're starting to have those conversations where we're no longer saying a certain industry is saturated. I think we're having more of the conversations of, I want to know who is in that industry to
Right.
see if we can, and with all of these things that you've been doing, either your podcast or your, now, embroidery and graphics company, what have you found has been kind of like the same message over and over? Has it been, it doesn't matter what you're doing, we still want to support you? Like, what have you really felt has been what has helped you for both sides?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. I feel like I've even the amount of support that I got, like the amount of shares, the amount of people that commented, the amount of people that liked the page, just from like that one day of me releasing stuff, I was like, oh my god, guys! Like, just like you said, you're like, you listen to me. I'm like, oh, you like looked at my stuff and you want to support me. I'm always so surprised. I'm like, thank you. I feel so honored. Because I think, especially as Latinas, sometimes we feel like no one's paying attention to us and what we're doing. That darn what is it, imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would definitely say that the support is that everybody's like, I think a lot of people, even that maybe not are necessarily in my direct support system, but people that see what I'm doing see that I'm very goal oriented, that I'm very determined, that I'm motivated, and I feel like people feed off of that. Because it's one thing for you to live in your day by day. Obviously you're not going to be motivated every day. You're not going to be, or maybe you had your own dreams that you never fulfilled, and you see people doing these things, and people are like, yeah, let's do it, like almost like not necessarily living vicariously, but um I guess maybe just they see what you're doing and they appreciate that. Because I'm that same way. Like if I see somebody doing that, I'm like, okay, girl, yeah, I get it. Like let me share this and doing that, which in turn kind of like motivates me to want to continue to keep up that cycle, I guess you could say.
So with that, what has helped you stay motivated? Because, for anybody from the outside looking in, it's like, hey, she's doing all these multiple things. One, maybe when does she have the time to sleep? When does she have the
Yeah.
time to, like, rest or whatever? How does she keep on going? Because it's multiple things happening. And what I realized is that I think I was looking out for something online, and I can't remember her name to save my life, because it's just one of those names that's really hard to pronunciate. But she's an actress. She was, anybody that watches The Big Bang Theory, she was Sheldon's girlfriend and then turned into wife.
Yeah,
Um,
Kaylee Kalua. I'm
no, not
messing it
her.
up, but I
No,
know who you're
no.
talking about.
Yes, no, it's the other girl. It's the other. It
Oh,
was
the one
the,
that used to
yeah.
play Blossom.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
yes.
I can't
I
say her name
oh,
because
I
her
can't
name.
either.
Yeah, her Blossom as
Yeah.
well.
She looks like she
Um,
has a PhD.
yeah, so she's an actress.
Yes.
She's an educator, and now she's an author. And it's crazy because we sometimes forget that people, it's okay to do multiple things. Like, it's
Hmm.
only okay to stay doing one thing. Um, you know, because we go through changes, we go through cycles, we go through growth cycles, and so sometimes one thing that maybe interested us, or we felt like we were good at, or we wanted to do, sometimes doesn't mean that we're no longer good at them, or we don't like them. We're not in that season anymore.
Hmm.
It's I see it that a lot of people feel fear of being able to change, like they would change the channel because of what people might say about them. What would you tell somebody that's like, hey, I like doing this thing, but now I kind of want to do this completely opposite thing? What words would you give them of encouragement to kind of go for it without caring really that they're changing, or they're also adding something additional, like the way that you have?
Yeah. My thing is, and this is, it goes into like a more deeper mantra, but I've always been very, um, if I died tomorrow, would I regret not have doing it?
Hmm. Yeah.
Plain and simple. I feel like, and even though I'm 35, I feel like I've lived a crazy life. I've tried things, I've done things, I've met people, and I can honestly say if I died today, I would be happy with everything that I've done in my life. And that's my big thing with people, is just to live your life. Who cares? Like, no one's, at the end of the day, no one's going to be happy for you. No one's going to be sad for you. Like, only you can experience these emotions. And regardless of what you're doing, like, do it so that you don't regret it when you're on your deathbed wishing that you would have done A, B, C, and D. Because you might not even live that long. Honestly, like, God forbid, somebody gets in their car and they don't make it to see tomorrow. Like, would you have looked back on your life and appreciated that you did any and everything that you wanted to? Even if it didn't work, even if you failed at it, did you still at least attempt to do it?
So we were talking about, being able living life to the fullest,
Mm-hmm.
and just so that you won't have any, not just regrets, but to really truly live life instead of life living you.
Exactly.
Now that you're transitioning also into going back to school, like kind of walk us through what got you to make that decision, since early on in your career, with the military service and stuff like that, made you decide, what, now is the time.
So
So
I had
I had
actually been
actually
in
been in
school.
school.
Um,
Um,
I would
I would
say
say
maybe
maybe
like
like
my
my
third
third
year
year
in,
in,
I
I
finally
finally
said, you know
said, you know
what,
what,
like,
like
I'm ready
I'm
to go
ready
to
to go to
school.
school.
I'm
I'm
focused.
focused.
I know
I
what I
know
want
what
to
I want to
do.
do.
So this
So
time
this time
around, I'm
around, I'm
not
not
like
like
just
just
going to
going to
go.
go.
So I've
So
been
I've
going
been
for a
going for a
while.
while.
Um,
Um,
it took me
it
a
took
long
me a long
time just
time just
because
because
I've done
I've done
deployments,
deployments,
I've
I've
moved
moved
multiple
multiple
times.
times.
I
I
didn't want to
didn't want
take
to
full
take full
time
time
just
just
because it's a
because it's a
lot to
lot to
include work.
include work.
And
And
so
so
it took me
it
all
took
this
me all this
time.
time.
I
I
graduated with
graduated
my
with
first
my first
degree in
degree in
2019.
2019.
It was
It was
super sad
super sad
because
because
COVID
COVID
happened, so I
happened, so
didn't
I
get to
didn't get
like
to
walk
like
the
walk the
stage or have
stage
a
or have a
ceremony. And I was
ceremony. And
like,
I was
it
like,
took
it
me
took
all
me
these
all
years
these
to
years to
graduate, and I
graduate, and
couldn't
I
even
couldn't even
walk.
walk.
And
And
then
then
I
I
decided to
decided to
continue with
continue with
a
a
different
different
degree
degree
just
just
because
because
for whatever
for whatever
reason.
reason.
And so
And so
I
I
did that
did that
degree, which I
degree, which I
graduated
graduated
in
in
December of
December of
22.
22.
And so
And
those
so
were
those
both
were both
bachelors.
bachelors.
And what I
And what
want
I
to
want to
do
do
is
is
work with
work with
clinical mental
clinical
health
mental health
patients,
patients,
be it
be
like
it like
counseling or
counseling or
some kind
some
of
kind of
like
like
family,
family,
uh,
uh,
what's the word
what's the
for
word
it?
for
Like
it? Like
intermediate with
intermediate
like
with
child
like child
protective
protective
services kind
services
of
kind
thing.
of thing.
And for all
And
of
for
that,
all
you
of
need a
that, you need a
master's
master's
degree.
degree.
So
So
hence the
hence the
graduates.
graduates. Okay. And why that degree? Why that industry? Why that field?
I always
I always
wanted to do
wanted to
some
do
kind of
some kind of
psychology just
psychology
in
just in
general. I thought
general.
it
I
was
thought it
very
was very
interesting.
interesting.
Like
Like
literally from
literally
the way
from the
we
way we
purchase
purchase
things
things
to the
to the
way
way
we
we
are the way
are the
we
way we
are.
are.
And the
And
more
the
that I
more that I
started
started
getting
getting
involved,
involved,
especially in the
especially in the
Hispanic
Hispanic
community,
community,
and then
and then
seeing things in
seeing
my
things
own
in my own
family,
family,
seeing
seeing
things
things
that
that
I was
I was
witnessing the way
witnessing the
we
way
grew
we grew
up,
up, the
history
history
became even
became
more
even more
interesting to
interesting
me.
to
So
me. So
specifically, what I
specifically,
was
what I
really
was really
interested in
interested in
is
is
why
why
do
do
Latinos
Latinos
use
use
domestic
domestic
violence,
violence,
sexual
sexual
assault,
assault,
alcoholism,
alcoholism,
substance
substance
abuse as
abuse
ways
as
to
ways to
coping
coping
via
via
majority of
majority of
communities
communities
who
who
do
do
therapy,
therapy,
who go
who
to
go to
counseling and
counseling
things
and
of that
things of that
nature.
nature.
And
And
so I
so I
wanted to
wanted to
improve my
improve my
community from
community
those
from those
spaces.
spaces.
Um,
Um,
and
and
so
so
continuing
continuing
is mental
is
health.
mental health. I
And
mean,
mental
and
health is
mental health is
literally
literally
everything,
everything.
especially right
Especially
now.
right now,
People are
people are
finally
finally
realizing what it
realizing what it
is,
is,
how it
how it
affects
affects
you, how
you,
much
how
it
much it
affects your
affects your
daily
daily
life,
life,
from your
from your
work to your
work to your
personal.
personal.
And
And
I just,
I
just the
just the
way
way
you said
you
social
said
media
social
is going
media
to
is
keep
going to keep
growing,
growing,
so
so
is
is
psychology
psychology
and
and
mental
mental
health.
health.
And
And
the more
the
we're
more we're
learning about
learning
it,
about
the
it,
more
the
that we're
more that we're
realizing all
realizing
these
all these
different things
different
from
things from
previous
previous
years.
years.
Oh, that's what
Oh,
that
that's what
was.
that
It
was.
wasn't
It wasn't
shell
shell
shock from
shock
World
from
War
World War
One and
One and
Two and
Two and
Vietnam.
Vietnam.
It was
It was
PTSD.
PTSD.
It
It
wasn't
wasn't
that,
that
you know, um, a lot of
a lot of
women grew
women
up
grew up
bitter and
bitter
mean
and
and
mean and
ugly. It's because
ugly.
they
It's
were
because they were
sexually
sexually
assaulted,
assaulted,
because their
because their
husbands
husbands
treated them
treated
like
them like
crap,
crap,
because they were
because they were
so messed
so
up in
messed
their
up in
head
their
that they
head that they
continued
continued
to
to
be mean to the generations going on, to continuing with all this trauma without helping or telling them or finding a way to stop it. We're finally realizing all of these things in the community. And I love that. And I also, like I said, seeing things in my own family, want to also be part of contributing to continue to keep up with this generational healing.
Yeah. Oh, well,
I'm hearing myself double. Are you hearing me double?
The what?
I'm hearing myself double. No, okay.
No, there might be a little bit of feedback, but on this, there's a little bit of, what do you call it? Like static-iness on my end, but not double.
Okay. I just want to.
Yeah. And I can always just double check in this part right here. I can cut it off too. Well, that's good. I mean, that is so much needed. I think right now psychology is changing everything from what is human design. I have a couple of friends that kind of focused into that, like what is human design, and based on what human design is, it really leads people into more understanding of who they are, and how they work in society, and why they've chosen the careers that they've chosen or the life that they have chosen based on their human design. So this kind of, parallels with the studies of psychology and how human, as a human species, we've evolved and we're changing. And I'm so glad to be hearing the conversations about, yes, therapy and counseling, because it is it's something that is always been seen as something you don't speak about, especially within communities of color. And it is more times than other, the answer is because it's a generational decision that has been passed on, as it's not something we do. And so I'm really excited that you have taken it upon yourself to kind of really start diving into that, to be not just the voice, but also be the advocate as to why it is something that we should look into culturally, within our communities of color, for our own benefit,
Right.
in all sense of forms, mental benefit. Yes, absolutely. But with the mind comes also how we can advance ourselves collectively. And so I just love hearing, being able, especially Latina women, being the ones that are leading those conversations and being part of those spaces, because I think it's so much needed, and we're just scratching the surface. Like I had said before, the pandemic kind of opened up a lot of things, a lot of great things, a lot of great opportunities, things that we had not seen had that not happened. But at the same time, it also did bring up a lot of other conversations that were troublesome, and mental health was one of them.
Right.
And then also for and I personally feel like, being able to, you coming in with the perspective of, the service woman, and what you've seen and what you've, you know, experienced, and being able to support those that need the support, I think is also such a beautiful thing too, that you're diving into the schooling, so I think overall, everything that you've been telling me so far, everything that you've been sharing with us so far, I keep seeing the same thing. And it's just really, you're just diving into the experience of living your life fulfilled, wherever it is that life takes you. Because life has taken you, not just literally has taken you everywhere, but life has taken you into multiple spaces, and you have just, you've risen up to the occasion, and you've also, stepped into it saying, let's just see what happens and just roll with it. This is what I like to do, and this is what I feel like doing, and this is what I want to do, and just see kind of where it goes. And I think that's a beautiful thing to say. I think a lot of more Latina women are starting to do that.
For sure.
A lot of jefas are really definitely, I'm noticing from the outside that a lot of jefas are really starting to say, you know what, this is what I want to do. Who cares what anybody says? I'm going to keep diving in into what I'm doing. So kind of walk us through, what does your day-to-day look like with all these things that you've got going on and the things that you're starting, kicking off this year with? What does your day-to-day look like?
I'd say it's pretty normal. I don't have kids and I'm not married, so I think that has a lot to do with like why I'm, well, you know what? I can't even say that because I have so many friends that are also married and have kids and that are still like everywhere. So I don't even know if I would necessarily say because I have that more free time. To me, I just love staying busy. I go to work, my full-time job. And then I come home, I do what I need to, be it like on the computer, or if I need to go to the garage and do some orders, or um I mean, I don't know. Like, I actually have my planner. This is like my big thing. My new one for this year is filled out. Like, I literally have any and everything on my planner. It's my go-to. I literally have like, I even have to like schedule my breaks sometimes, so that way I'm not like burning myself out. But my planner has been like my saving grace. And I honestly don't really have a routine aside from like the basic, wake up, brush my teeth, wash my butt kind of thing. But so it just depends on what's going on through the week. But I have my full-time job. I go in office 8 to 4, and I come home and do whatever needs to be done for all of my side projects.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. The reason I was asking is because I think we are starting to come out of the norm of what, in order to sustain all these multiple facets of our lives, and gifts that we have to offer, that there's a set way to be able to do things. Like, I posted about that a little bit this morning on how I'm in my flow season. I'm in my CEO era, but I'm in my flow season. And what that means is I'm literally going with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not overthinking anything. I know the things that I need to get done. I do have a list of things that I want to accomplish, and I have goals and stuff like that I want to do. But I'm literally going with the flow. Like, if I don't feel like, if I wake up one morning and I'm like, you know what, I actually don't want to work today. I actually want to do this, this, and this, and this. And if I have the energy for it, I'm going to do that. I'm going with the flow, because I think that's how we burn out. We can do 4 or 5, 3 different things. But we're doing them at the level that we see that we should be doing them. There is no right or wrong. There is no blueprint as to when you're doing multiple things. I remember somebody saying that, like, you can do all of these things, simultaneously, but you have to do at least one, like, the most, because if not, then it's not you're only doing, what is it? The jack of all trades, but trades of none, meaning you're not you're not really specifically doing anything, because you're doing so many things at the same time that you're not, but if you really think about it, who is actually giving us the definition of what perfectionism should be when it comes to, or what success, like, is everything that we're doing succeeding in our eyes? If they are, that's all that matters.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And so that's what I was asking about, like, what does your day-to-day look like? Because I want people that are listening or watching us to know that there is no set way. Jefa is making decisions for herself as she sees fit, personally, professionally. I bought a planner as well, thinking that, because I used to be the one that had like 3 different planners.
Mm-hmm.
One planner, like, I don't know why I have so many notebooks. I don't obsess, but then I realized I have like 5 notebooks at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And this year I was like, you know what? I'm going to get a planner, because I used to write everything down. I haven't written anything in my planner. Everything's on my phone.
Ugh.
And I wouldn't write things on my phone because I was always afraid that something wouldn't save. And so I was like, well, I'm going to go old school, and I'm going to write everything down, because I can't depend on my phone. Some update happens and I miss out on whatever. And then I bought the planner, and the planner is just sitting there, and I'm like,
I use both, girl. I have my phone to send me the reminders, and then my book just to make sure I'm not like double booking myself. Like, they work simultaneously together.
Yeah. And then sometimes I'll put on my Mac, I'll use my calendar, and then I'll look at my phone and they're not syncing. And so that's why I would start to freak out on, like, why I need to do everything, write everything down on a planner. But back to what I was saying, it's different for everybody, right? So what would be your best advice to somebody who wants to try different things, who wants to, wants to just started something, but now maybe change their mind, or wants to try something different, or wants to do multiple things at the same time? What would be your best advice to them, as you've navigated through individual things?
Just to start, honestly. And I can't even say anything in particular, because, like I said, that business, I've had that equipment in there for like going on 2 years. And I was like, I'm gonna do it. Oh no, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. No, I'm not ready. I'm gonna do it. No, I'm not gonna do it. And this year I was like, no más no. Like, just get it done, girl. So honestly, sometimes I just feel like, especially for women who are probably overthinkers, we are gonna think from A to Z and then triple think it. So the time's gonna pass. Just do it. Figure it out. Learn it as it goes. Make your mistakes. Trial and error. Even if you triple think things, there's always gonna be something that goes wrong. So just do it. Honestly.
What would be then the best advice that you've been given that has helped you be able to navigate each season that you've gone through?
Probably just do it, because like I said, I'm the overthinker. I will think something over, and somebody said it doesn't have to be perfect to start, but you have to start to get it perfect. And I was like, ooh, okay, I'll take that one.
Wow, I haven't heard that one before. That one's good. That one's real good. What would you say is your definition of a jefa?
A woman that just goes out and does what makes her happy. And everybody's definition of happy is different. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody wants to be a boss babe. Not everybody wants to run businesses. Not, everybody is meant to be put in this particular box. I feel like if you are happy and you are living in your confidence and what you do, hey, you're a boss girl. Do you? Life is too short to worry about what anybody's thinking.
Yes, 100%. Actually, 200%. I agree with that. What do you have coming up? What is it something that, the viewers and the listeners can kind of look forward to for, other than you hitting school and stuff like that? What is something that you've got going on that we can follow and support you with?
So aside from the podcast, I would love for everybody to go and listen to the podcast. I told myself I was going to do more history this year. I kind of feel like I sprinkled it here and there a little more. I'm definitely going to try to do. Well, last year was a really hard year, so I don't think I mentioned this, but I moved back to San Antonio to take care of my grandfather. He got really sick, and my mom started having her own health issues, and she's an only child. So as the oldest girl, came back home. Since last December, he was put on hospice, and unfortunately, he passed away in April. And my biological father passed away when I was like 2. So my grandpa was always like my main patriarch. So that was really hard this year. I wasn't very consistent with things, with the podcast, with content. I didn't do a lot of my community engagements. I just kind of needed that time to, grieve and self-soothe. And I feel like a lot of other things on top of just things with my grandfather went to the left. So this year, I'm really just trying to get back into my being consistent, back on getting good content out there, and really just maintain what my original focus for the podcast was. Like I said, aside from the embroidery and the screen printing thing, which I hope, which seems anyway to be kind of going hand in hand with my content, but there's nothing really new. I'm just really trying to be the best at what I've already established.
And where can they find you on social media, websites? Where can they find you online?
Yeah, so on both TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, it's Chicanachisme Podcast. My company is called So Mestiza, but it's so like SEW.
Oh,
and so the same thing. I have a Facebook and an Instagram with that, and it has a website, somestizas.com, SEW for so. And then for myself, Tori Escamilla, I have so many, I'm sure you're the same. I have so many different profiles for all the little things that I do. Sometimes it's kind of hard to keep up with them. And my personal stuff, I really do like to try to keep personal. But for Chicanachisme and So Mestiza, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tori, for spending this morning with us. For those of you that don't know, we are in Central Time, Texas time. As we're recording this, I really do appreciate it. Like I said, we've been talking for quite some time now on trying to see how to get you on the podcast. But just like you said, there comes a time where sometimes you just got to take a break. It's not a thing too horrible, but we do need to take care of ourselves first. I'm a firm believer that we need to pour into ourselves in order for us to pour into everybody else, our community, and the projects that we have. either coming up or we're currently in. So I do appreciate your time. Thank you so much, girl, for hanging out with me and hanging out with all of the Jefas here on the Everyday Jefa podcast platform. Remember, you can listen to us on just about any digital platform or wherever you listen to your Spotify's one, your podcasts. But you can also find us on YouTube under the same name, the Everyday Jefa Podcast. And again, Jefitas, remember that you are one of a kind. Keep shining, keep empowering, keep telling your stories. And we look forward to finding you here on the next episode. Hasta luego, chicas. Take care and have a great, empowering day.